Dash here with Rolling Bones In. No done today, but hopefully next week we'll get to see him. I was requested to show how I 3D print. I'm not good enough to do a tutorial on 3D printing, not comfortable with that yet, but I will go through the process from start to finish and just show you just a long format video on how I do everything from choosing the files to printing them to prepping them all the way through painting them. And this will continue in our Frostgrave series because the models that I'm going to be working on are for my Frostgrave warband. It will be my wizard and apprentice wizard. So I hope you enjoy this and we will get started. So first I went to My Mini Factory and found the models that I was interested in using. So I'm going to use this human female sorceress and this human female battle mage, and those will be the files that I use to print for this for these wizards. You can find free 3D printing files, or you can buy files depending on where you go. Lots of stuff on Patreon as well as Kickstarter for 3D printing files. Hero Forge is a great place to go, but these are things that you can go and download, usually a lot cheaper than buying the models themselves, and usually you can print as many copies of those as you want, so it, in the end, I feel like is a much better deal than buying the models themselves. Then I will come in and select the files that I want to download or that I want to print. Because I'm using the Anycubic Photon Zero, I use the program that comes with it, which is the Photon Workshop, and I bring the files in and then I work on the files from there. We won't go through that whole process, but we will show you some of the things. Sometimes they'll come in laying down, so you will want to change the direction of them. I like to have mine standing up most of the time. It makes it a little easier and I can fit more models on there. And then I bring them . Once you have your file sized and arranged the way that you want, then you need to put in your supports so that the 3D printer can print them the way that it needs to. So then once you have your files selected and once you've given them their supports and things, then you want to come down and slice the file. Then we load the files onto the 3D printer and begin the process of 3D printing. It's pretty easy. You just plug the flash drive into the side, select the file you want to print, and then hit print, and it does the rest. This print, because of the height of it, takes about 3 hours, a little over 3 hours, and so it's a long process, but luckily you don't have to sit there for the whole process. And then when it's done, it will just raise to the top, and that's the end. Now we just need to clean these up and get rid of the supports that I put on there. After you finish 3D printing them, I didn't show these steps, but you rinse them off in alcohol, and then you put them under a lamp, UV lamp, to finish curing, because that's how the resin cures on these, is through UV light. So So there's that one, pretty much all trimmed up and ready to go. Then we move on to priming. I just use a spray can primer. Just make sure you're in a ventilated area when you do this. I do it outside. Just prime them, make sure you get as much as you can, as much coverage on there as you can. Then we move on to painting. Here I'm using the Games Workshop paints. I showed in a previous video that for terrain and things like that, I used Apple Barrel and the big cheaper paints that you can get at the hobby store. But with my models, I prefer the Games Workshop paints. Lots of other people have their preferences. Also, you can see here that I paint directly out of the pot, which is definitely not the best way to paint, but it's what works for me. Most people prefer to paint on a palette where they can mix their paints and control the consistency of the paint. Maybe when I get to be a little bit better, I will do that as well. But I like to block in the major areas, the bigger colors, and then move on from there and move down. Sometimes I will start with the stuff farthest in, like the face and the skin, and then work out from there. Just depends on what I am doing at the moment. But the painting process goes pretty quick like this, but it doesn't usually go this fast. Then after the painting process, we'll go on and do the basing. With this one, I'm choosing to do a cobblestone base, which I'm using an egg carton and and a hole punch. This, I've never tried this way before, but I thought it would be an interesting way to do it, especially for Frostgrave, where it's this ruined city covered in snow and things like that. So I put on the cobblestones from the eggshell with Elmer's glue or PVA glue, just the regular school glue. That's what I do most of my basing with, and let that dry. Then I come back and I paint it. Just did a regular flat gray, didn't worry about any like details or anything. And then I will add some snow flock to it, just to give it a little bit more of an effect that way. And then I'm coming back and touching up the models, and then I will go out and seal them in with a seal primer, and then they will be finished. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, and if everything goes well, next week we will be back to show you how we build our warbands. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments or any requests, and we look forward to seeing you again.